Hey, welcome. This is Dr. Patrick Porter. And I just wanted to show you a few different slides on the NeuralChek and what happens when you take the Mind Expander with the BrainTap. It's a phenomenal result that happens because we need energy in the brain to do this kind of work. So we're going to start here with Sophie. We're going to start here at Sophie's slide. And when we look at Sophie's slide, you can see she's starting here. Her psycho-emotional state should be between 50 and 100. She started at an 8 out of 100. That means she has very low energy across the hippocampus, and this is what we're measuring. But once she does the 2 puffs on the Mind Expander, which is just water and carbon atoms binding the nutrients that are in the Mind Expander, and then doing the BrainTap session, she was able to increase it from an 8 to a 64. You can see here the times on Wednesday, November 8th, 2023 at 8:15 in the evening, which isn't even a really good time to be doing this. The morning would be better, but this was when the test was done. So from 8:15 to 8:42, she made that kind of jump in her brain activity. You can see down here her delta activity. This high delta is very indicative of what we see today. Out of the 30,000 brain scans we've done here in the last 10 years, most people are above 70% delta, which means they have a lot of inflammation in their brain, in their body, or maybe they've had traumatic brain injuries, something's going on there. But we want to lower that down. Actually, it'd be best to be under 10. She was able to lower in that one session almost 20 points. And you can see here she had no other really brainwave activity. Now, that doesn't mean her brain wasn't functioning. It just means that her brain was so tired she had to go to sleep. So she's probably using some biologics like coffee, tea, and chocolate to stay going. You can see here before her stress level was at 343. That's very high stress. That's 3.5 times the peak that we want. We want it to be between 10 and 100. Lower is better here. So after the session, she's able to lower it down to a 45. This pie that I'm going to show you a little bit is the red represents your neurohormonal, yellow represents your sympathetic system, and green represents your parasympathetic. Best case scenario would be this would be a third, a third, a third. But we want to just start changing it. We need to unlock her nervous system. And you can see here that the 2 puffs on the Mind Expander and the BrainTap did just that. Brought it all the way down to 45. Again, you can look at the time imprints. You can see it's not very long between, less than 30 minutes between each of these readings. And they're able to almost bring the low frequency, which is the sympathetic, to 30%, the high frequency, which is the parasympathetic, to 23%, the very low frequency to 48%. So we're getting closer to that third, a third, a third. ANS stands for autonomic nervous system, and we can see here that we want to be between 35 and 145. Well, Sophie's at 603. That means that she's 4 times the peak. So her body isn't able to respond. If somebody pulls in front of her, or she has a bad day, she gets a bad phone call, a bad text, she's going to have a hard time getting rid of that negative emotional state. Now, after the Mind Expander and the BrainTap, though, she was able to bring it down to 104, which is excellent. And she's going to feel more in the flow. She's going to be able to go with the flow of what's going on because her autonomic nervous system, like heart rate variability, is going to be able to shift and change. Now, let's look at David. David started at 145 stress, which is still way over the line, but that's pretty good. Most people we see are above 200. So when you see 145, was able to bring it down to 78 with that one session. You can see here that starting to get a little movement here to get them back to where they need to be. Remember, we want it to be a third, a third, a third. The ANS, he was at 209, which is, about 60 points above where you want it to be. Able to bring it down to 132, which means now, again, more in the flow, more able to make better decisions, better emotional health and state. We look here at the brain. His brain was already in good shape between the 50 and 100, so not a lot of movement there. In David here, when you look here at 1223 to 1237, he didn't do the BrainTap session in between. So we would have seen bigger changes here, but just with the Mind Expander alone, took his delta down from 47 to 37. You can see the gamma in gamma and beta and alpha here, getting better activity in that area. Let's see how Lisa did. Lisa started at 167 stress index. and she was able to bring it down to 61, which is excellent. She had a little bit of a stress response, but that's okay. If we can get the nervous system moving, the whole thing is about moving that nervous system. And here she was about 280, which is slow, twice as slow as we want her to be. She was able to bring it down to 107, which means now she'll be able to spring that back and get that back into a balanced state. Let's see how Lisa did with her brain. So we look at her brain. She started at 52, but she's already in the good range. So she was operating in a good place, but she was able to bring up her brain energy up to 80 in just this short period, from 347 to 401. So you're looking at in less than 12 minutes, which is 2 puffs on the Mind Expand in 11-minute Sophie frequency session. She was able to bring it up to 80. Her delta was at 37. You can see the other brainwaves. You can see how she brought her delta down to 20. Her brainwaves are starting to regulate. Good things are happening. So I'm going to encourage you, especially if you feel tired like what Sophie felt. This is a tired brain. And this is someone who probably, before they found out about the Mind Expander and BrainTap, would come home at the end of the day, pass out on the couch, wake up, maybe eat dinner, pass out again watching a television program, fall asleep, basically having no quality of life after their work life because they probably use stimulants to stay awake and keep going. So I'm going to encourage you to check out the Mind Expander, keep using it with your BrainTap, and fuel that brain so that we can better a billion brains. So thanks for watching. Look forward to hearing about your success with the Mind Expander and the BrainTap solution. Thank you.